Who experiences negative thoughts? Me. I experience them, and I think you probably do too. That if you're human, you experience negative thoughts. You know, the thoughts that are those nitpicky negative thoughts that they're always pointing to something wrong about you, or the comparison, I'm just not enough. If I'm a Christian, I shouldn't be feeling like this. Everybody else is happy, but I'm not. Or those ultimatum thoughts. It's like, it's just not going to work. You know, I'm going to fail all the time. Or some of those negative thoughts that are kind of the performance review that, you know, those, oh, I should have said this, or I should have done this. Ugh, now they all hate me and they're just not going to want to be around me. You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, now let's take it a step further. What about the spiritual negative thoughts? Okay, what about the thoughts like the sin punishment negative thought? This is I deserve this. God's punishing me. God's judgment is on me. He's disciplining me, that kind of stuff. Or what about the purging for holiness negative thoughts? God's just sanctifying me more. This is why I'm going through this. He wants me to be more holy like him. He's just taking me through this purging or this sanctification process. Okay? You can kind of see where that goes. And then what about the other negative brokenness thoughts? God's just breaking me so that he's just going to get more of me out so that I can be more like him. Just that, and it goes all in that same theme. Now, if you notice the nature of all these negative thoughts, they're all introspective breakdown of our identity in character and in worth. So if we're unworthy, then we're unlovable. And if we're unlovable, then we disqualify ourselves from anything good. Now, in a spiritual sense, what that does is that fuels that punitive or that brokenness theme with God. And the more anxiety the person have, the stronger that this gets, and it turns into a lot of scrupulous thinking. Okay, and what happens is that it just makes us imposters of grace. We shouldn't be this way. So it results into that pushed for more dependency on God. I need to be broken more. God, you need to break me so I can know how much more I need you. Or it gets into the pressured devotion for more love. God is breaking me to experience more of his love. Or just that pulled into more discipline, doing more for God. And that's so God will be pleased with me. And it turns into this performance thing. And all of that just touches on the essence of weak faith. It just reinforces how weak you are. And then that just turns into not feeling worthy. So therefore, I need to be broken, and God needs to do that. Now, for many people that I've worked with in this journey, especially with depression, anxiety, that type of thinking just leaves people stuck. But did you know that this is normal, okay? This is normal. Your brain looks for ways and formulas to categorize these negative experiences and these thoughts. But what happens is it just turns inward, and then somehow we get into this formula that it's now God of having to do this. And so that's why it turns into that punitive or discipline or brokenness thing. Now, let me give you some extra, because this is not in the workbook, but just some extra understanding about how negative thoughts work, okay? So negative thoughts, in psychology, it's kind of referred to as the inner speech or the inner voice, okay? And what's interesting about this is that people that have negative thoughts, and they've done some research, and I've looked at some of this interesting research, that people that have these negative thoughts and they're just intrusive and things like that, their left hemisphere in their brain, which is the language center in your brain, it's activating as if it's talking. But also what the research shows, and the kind of the process of this, that inner speech also activates muscles within your larynx that as if you're talking. So your brain is going through a process of filtering through what the negative thing is so that you'll know what to do, okay? Now, negative thoughts can obviously build up and immobilize us in really small or even big ways. And that can lead to what's called learned helplessness, okay? And the easiest way to understand learned helplessness is this. Think of the picture of the elephant, the baby elephant. And so they tie the baby elephant by a rope and to a stick. And then that elephant tries to get away and away and away, but it can't. But the elephant matures to its full strength and stature. But the elephant has been learned in helplessness that the he or she elephant cannot break away from this rope or stick and doesn't even try. However, they have the power to break it in one snap. So that's what we have to learn. We have to learn to power against our learned helplessness, okay? And the way we react to negative thoughts within our bodies, okay? There's a psychologist named Rick Hansen, and he's got some good information. He's got a book on this as well. But what he shows is that negative interactions or experiences or negative thoughts, those things stick to our nervous system like Velcro. But the positives bounce off like Teflon. So what they've found is that if you take 15 seconds just meditating and focus your attention on the positive, you can make that stick to your nervous system and to absorb it. It's very interesting. Now, John Gottman's another psychologist, and he's found that it takes 5 good interactions to replace just 1 negative. Okay, so what your brain's doing is with all the positives, they're just going in and out of the brain. But the negative interactions and those negative thoughts, they're getting stored into what's called your implicit memory. And that's for your survival instinct. So obviously, if you touch a hot stove, you're not going to do that again. That's a negative experience, and now you know you just don't do that. But negative experiences can also create other thoughts, and then we have these ongoing thoughts about that so we can survive. And your brain is just trying to survive and going into threat mode from those negatives. And so those negative thoughts and those interactions, they're just sticky, and they stick to our nervous system, and they're 5 times more powerful than positives. Okay, so we're going to manage those negatives to a positive balance of truth and comfort, and seeing that from a faith perspective, especially as a Christian. And we're going to balance that with the reality of pain and negative experiences and all of that. Because what we're doing with this exercise is we're activating what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. That's part of your nervous system that's responsible for rest, digest, and your brain responds with the neurons and all that for releasing and activating the healing hormones in your body. So that's why a tool like this is helpful, not necessarily cure yourself that you'll never be affected by negative interactions or thoughts, but you'll be able to have a new tool and a new way to minimize and work those things down into a place of a better comfort.